Well, a few minutes ago, Sanjeev Bashrian just sounded a little bit cautious on the markets, for the remainder of September. Well, if you look at the Nifty, we've come off the high point of the day. The advanced decline ratio as well has now moved into the favor of the declining stock. So just some caution, some cautious moments, just so to say, in the last 10-15 minutes or so. The crisscross lines actually will tell you a better picture if we pull that up for you. Sanjeev, I wanted to ask you about Exide. You know, the stock had that big run up from around that 160, 170 to around 205. I think on Friday it made a peak at around 205, 210. From there, it's 10% down. This deal that they've concluded should be good for Exide shareholders. Do you believe that you would be looking to get in at some point of time?
So Nigel, as a disclosure, I own Exide. I think the battery market is a duopoly. Are aware between them and Amar Raja, and even though input costs like lead and zinc have gone up, I think the comeback with autos is going to be huge. We are aware of the semiconductor and the supply chain, so I think Exide fits that bill perfectly. Plus, they've got a better than expected valuation on the insurance business, which was it didn't make sense. There was no complementary part, and I think HDFC Life, as a disclosure, HDFC Life is one of our top picks. We think they've got away with a very, very good deal. The smaller sections of places where Exide was reaching, or Exide Insurance, HDFC will get the full benefit of that. So we think Exide itself, by just a play on the battery market and me being contrarian on autos, seems to be a very good bet. I don't rule out targets of 240, 245 coming by the end of the year.
Okay, so Sanjeev, before we let you go, any mid-cap stock idea that you have for our viewers?
So Anuj, if you recall, around that 150, 155, I told you IRB Infra, the management itself has guided that there were 23 lakh cars in June. That traffic is now seeing humongous growth. If you just read, the NHAI has doubled its collections. FASTag is a necessity, and everyone at home wants to just go out. Now they cannot get visas for US and UK, so it's going to be the smaller places, Pune, Lonavala, you name it over there, and Shimla and Mussoorie here. And the annuity income on all three businesses, that's Bot, Tot and Ham, are extremely well placed. I cannot but tell you, I'm so bullish on IRB, given that they've gone through this 15 years of correction. I don't rule out this Diwali 250 coming. 200 rupees is coming very fast. So try and make an entry. Get into stocks where the businesses are visible. They are India-centric plays, and you can see the type of progress we are seeing from Nitin Gadkari ji and the Prime Minister on getting overseas sovereign funds to invest in road and other infrastructure. As a disclosure, IRB is one of our top picks for our clients, so we have a vested interest.
Okay, Sanjeev, thanks a lot for your time today. Good talking to you as always. We'll talk to you next week now. Well, Sanjeev has sounded a bit cautious on the market. By the way, just look at the IT stocks led by Wipro, which is really having a multi-year breakout. I mean, Wipro has been the most phenomenal IT stock ever since that breakout of that 10-year range. And just look at that. Nifty IT is up another 1.5%. Wipro is up 5%. Emphasis has moved to high point of the day, up 2.5%. Mindtree up close to 2%. TCS up about 1%. And this is what Nigel, I was talking about in the morning, that when Sonia and Sobi were asking me about the banks versus Nifty trade, IT trade, and it's really, until the time the market gives you a message that trade has reversed, it's really foolish to preempt any kind of a move, and just one-way journey really continues for IT. So in fact, the Nifty IT, if you see the 5-year chart, has been perhaps the single best index worldwide. I mean, just map its journey. It's really been phenomenal. Just one-way journey. At any point you would have bought, you would have made a lot of money. And it's going through a bit of a paradigm shift right now. Of course, we could argue that the stocks have become expensive, but whether 25 times is the new normal or not, just look at the way the stocks have behaved. And every time there's a dip, it gets bought. And today as well, it's up 1.5%. It's a bit of a shame that the Nifty IT did not do as well in the futures product in terms of volumes and had to be taken out. Anyway, we have Tushar Pradhan now joining us, CIO of HSBC Global Asset Management. Tushar, good afternoon. I really have to ask you on IT. That's really been the big leadership pocket for the market. But is it now way too expensive? Is it showing some signs of bubble, or not yet?
No, I think these are questions which, of course, the future will tell us what the truth is. But clearly, the market seems to realize that there has been a paradigm shift in terms of how the world looks at IT in general, right? So while there was this debate about on-site, offshore, and the requirement for visas, etc., now the pandemic has told us that much more business is going to be done virtually. In fact, earlier, of course, the offshoring was something to do with, putting a lot of people to work which were not on-site. But now we are talking about even consultants, even normal businesses being conducted virtually. And I think that is something which probably some of us in the markets have not understood what the impact of that eventually will be. And I think that the first beneficiaries of those are the ones which are in the IT field. And I think this entire value spectrum is probably just going to explode because of all of the business strategies that each of these businesses will employ to get more and more of this pie, which is now available. And it is economically a price which is just impossible to ignore.
Tushar, we speak to a lot of experts and we always ask them, is the mid-cap party peaking out? Is the music going to stop? You're clearly not in that camp because you all have come out with an NFO that opens today, which goes on for the next few days. Tell us more about that. It's a mid-cap focused theme. So what are the themes you're looking at play? I believe one of the themes is that Make in India and exports theme as well. Give us some more details.
Yeah, so I think people generally take mid-caps to mean something together, right? So mid-caps are expensive, mid-caps are this, mid-caps are that. I think what we ignore is what are these mid-caps made up of and what are these businesses? And I think if you concentrate on the businesses, you'll understand that a lot of companies which have entered into the large cap space have actually entered through the mid-cap space, right? So these are businesses which are run well, which have actually growth potential, as well as having proved themselves in terms of how their business models are working, are growing in market cap because of the growth that is associated with them. So I will distinguish mid-cap as a means of just identifying a universe of companies, which for the calculation of market cap comes under mid-cap. But it's not as if we are saying all mid-caps are going to do well. What we are saying is apply your mind to saying what are the next winners coming out of this group of companies, which are in a very interesting space. And I think that is limited what we are saying. The second part in terms of where the growth is coming from, I think there is a range of companies which we can talk of. So while on the large cap space, we have a very large concentration on financials, for example, there is no such concentration problem in the mid cap space. There is a larger range of sectors that you can choose from. And each of these sectors have their own growth potential. So it doesn't have to be a very large vector at the top to kind of say, okay, India, this sector will do well. Within each of these sectors, there is enough growth. So one of the things which have been very popular for some time has been this China plus one kind of supply chain diversification that the world is looking at. India has been a beneficiary and it will continue to remain a beneficiary. So a very large swath of companies which are mid-cap in nature can really benefit out of that. We talked about IT earlier. I think IT and mid-cap is a wonderful combination. And we are seeing that there may be a lot more potential for these businesses going forward than just focusing on the very large 3 or 4 and say this is where most of the business is coming from. That's another space which is exciting. Pharmaceuticals, if you talk about chemicals, if you talk about so many businesses, in fact, construction, the focus on infrastructure and all of these businesses, again, leading you to some areas